Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome to Corporate Bhagavad Gita. We'll start with the prayers which are on my screen. Hope you can see my screen.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranitam Yen Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sopatantikam. Vande Aham Shri Gurum Shri Uttapadagaman Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatamvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतम सावधूतम परिजन सहितम कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम श्री राधा कृष्ण पदान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोसुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वभानुसुति देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधु भयेव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So welcome to Corporate Bhagavad Gita. We were reading from the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 26 we completed. We will go to the 27th verse. Okay. यावत् संजयते किंचित सत्वं स्थवर जंगमम क्षेत्र क्षेत्रज्ञ संयोगात् तद्विद्धि भारत ऋषभः. O chief of the Bharata, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. So whatever we see in this world, it's a combination of field of activities and the knower of the field, meaning what the soul is doing with the matter, in simple words. And the knower of the field are of two types. One is the Paramatma and another one is the Jivatma. So these three things are working. The matter is there, and how Paramatma is allowing the Jivatma to work with it. Both material nature and living entity which are existing before the creation of the cosmos. See, the creation of this world, the Brahmanda, before that both were there, okay? The matter was also there and the Jivatma was also there. Whatever is caused is but a combination of the living entity and material nature. There are many manifestations like trees, mountains, hills which are not moving, and there are many existences which are moving, animals, aquatics. All of them are but combination of material nature and the superior nature, that is the living entity. Without the touch of the superior nature, now this is a very important statement. Without the touch of the superior nature, the living entity, nothing can grow. See, this is the difference in modern science understanding and Vedic science. Vedic science says anything that we see is growing, dying, you know, living. There is a Paramat, there is Atma in it. Okay. Matter on its own cannot grow. This is the Vedic understanding. But the modern science understanding is what? That the body is made of chemicals, they are combining and they're growing and then they're getting destroyed. There is nothing which is giving them energy to do all these things. This is modern science explanation. Modern science explanation is incomplete. The reason is without the driver of the car cannot move. Right? If a car is parked, it will never move unless the driver comes inside and then drives it. So the Vedic science says that this body is also a machine. This body is also a machine. Without the driver of the body is not going to move. The body is never living. So that driver is the Atma. See, modern science never says how. Okay, modern science says that there is some electric pulses in the heart. This is clear. We know that, right? Because if the heart is not working properly, it needs some electric pulses. Pacemaker is installed by modern science.
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. But it does it say that who is providing the electric pulses? That
No.
explanation it is not given. Okay, they will say they are still finding it out. Okay, if a motor is running, if a light is running, if a fan is running, we know that the electricity has been provided by the power source, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
We know it is coming from some power generation,
Hmm.
some millions of dollars were used to erect the power plant, and then it was carried for hundreds of kilometers. Then the transformer was used to bring it down like 20,000 volts to 230 volts, right? And then from 230 volts it is been carried to our home. Inside the home we turn on the switch and then the bulb gets on. Okay, this is the modern science will explain this is how electricity is passed. But it has not given explanation how the electric pulses in the heart are generated. It knows that electric pulses are needed because pacemaker is there na.
Hmm.
If the
Hmm.
heart is not working properly they give a pacemaker, so pacemaker provides that electric pulses. So this is how modern science explains. It doesn't give the reason behind the electric pulses in the heart, but it understands that if the heart stops everything stops. If the heart stops everything stops, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, yes,
So
Prabhu.
Vedic science says that within the heart is the Atma and with him is the Paramatma. The Atma is the one that is providing the energy. So on its own, the matter is not going to move. This is the Vedic science. Modern science is on its own, it is moving. See, the whole theory of Big Bang and all that is that everything is moving on its own. There was a blast. After that blast, everything is just moving, and it is till today it is moving. Okay, till today the universe is expanding. The bomb blast has not ended. This is the understanding. Okay, this is how they
Hmm.
explain. Okay, fine. But Vedic point is that matter cannot move on its own. It needs a force, and it needs a provider of that force. So that provider is the Atma. Okay. Modern science, did we ever read in our textbook that God made earth and all that?
No, no,
No,
Prabhu.
it is
Hmm.
not there. It is just the laws are there. There are laws, gravitational laws, reaction laws, thermodynamics laws. But does it talk about the lawmaker? No, it doesn't touch that topic because it doesn't know how to find out. That's the problem with the modern scientists. They don't know how to go beyond that. So they say it is metaphysics, they say it is antimatter. They have understood that there is something called as consciousness, which is antimatter. They have used the word antimatter. And the same thing explained in the Vedic science is that the consciousness is is provided by the Atma. So this is the difference. So that's why this statement, without the touch of a superior nature, the living entity, nothing can grow. This is not supported by modern science. Modern science says that it is just happening. Okay, laws are working on its own. So, uh, you know, there was one scientist. So he made a very nice statement. So this is a bomb blast. Okay, bomb blast. Let's say pictures. Let's say. Okay, so we see so much of destruction happening right after a bomb blast. Okay,
Hmm.
so now Big Bang theory is there. Big Bang, Big Bang theory. You have heard about this Big Bang theory.
Yes, Prabhu.
It's not a theory, it's actually a speculation. It's not even this TV serial. It is the it is this. Yeah. So what they're explaining is that at one point everything was like a single point, and that blast has happened. From that single matter, every matter is getting expanded, and 13 billion years have happened. This is their explanation, and it is just growing, 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 growing like that. Now, one scientist said, "Okay, let's do something." He said, "These are the parts of the Boeing aeroplane." Okay, now this is a simplistic part. Okay, and he said, "Let's take a football field and let's
Mm-hmm.
keep it on that field, and imagine that a whirlwind or some bomb blast happens. After the bomb blast, we see the aeroplane being fixed." This was his argument. You understand the argument? Let's keep all the
Mm-hmm.
parts over there and let the bomb blast happen. After the bomb blast, we will see that an aeroplane on its own got built over there. Why he says this thing? Because he says, you are telling now there would happened a bomb blast, and after the bomb blast we are seeing so many planets, we are seeing design, we are seeing human beings, so much of complex things getting generated by a bomb blast. So it means this can happen, right? We can bomb blast and the whole plane becomes fixed on its own. All the screws will tighten and you will see a plane out of it. So he says it is that impossibility to accept the Big Bang
Big Bang.
so-called theory.
Okay.
So that was his argument. So that's why this theory is not a theory. It is a speculation. Basically, it's a speculation of what they are trying to explain. It's saying it just expanded. Now,
Mm-hmm.
why we are discussing this? Because this is the difference between modern science and Vedic science. Vedic science says that there is Jivatma who was there before the creation, and there is this matter, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, which was dormant. At time zero, the Jivatma manipulated with the matter, and that's how the creation is happening. This is the Vedic understanding. And you can see matter on its own. Matter on its own cannot work. You see, matter on its own cannot become a pot. The earth on its own cannot become a pot. There needs a pot maker, a higher intelligence to create that pot. Isn't it? This is our day to day experience. That if we need something useful out of it, we have to put our intelligence in it. Right? We have to put our
Yes.
intelligence in it. So, therefore, the Vedic science makes sense because it says that by the touch of the superior power, things can grow. Whereas from the Big Bang theory, who started this big bomb blast, nobody knows. Okay? Nobody knows who started this. It's fluctuations, they're saying. Inflation. So, this is the difference. You got it?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. So this is what we need to clearly understand. The relationship between material nature and spiritual nature is eternally going on. And this combination is affected by the Supreme Lord. So there is a Supreme Lord, the Creator, the Supreme Creator. No one has created him. He is there, and he has separated part and parcels, which are the Jivatmas, and he has this energy, which is inferior energy, material nature, and the Jivatmas, he is allowing the Jivatmas to control the inferior nature, and that's how things are growing. This is Vedic explanation. Therefore, he is the controller of both the superior and inferior natures. The material nature is created by him, and the superior nature is placed in this material nature, and thus all the activities and manifestations take place. Okay. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtaham parameshwaram vinash uh, vinashyastava avinash avinashyattam yah pashyati sa pashyati. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all the bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. So Krishna is saying that one who sees that there is Paramatma and Jivatma both sitting inside the body and all the bodies, okay, actually sees. He is the real seer. He is the real seer. Anyone who by good association can see three things combined together: the body, proprietor of body, individual soul, and the friend of the individual soul, that is Paramatma, is actually in knowledge. So this is how Vedic knowledge is explained. Vedic knowledge means to see these three things. Unless one has association of a real knower of spiritual subjects, one cannot see these three things. Those who do not have such association are ignorant, and they simply see the body and they think that when the body is destroyed, everything is finished. This is modern science explanation. Body is destroyed, everything is finished. But actually, it is not so. After destruction of the body, both the soul and the super soul exist. The spiritual energy always exists, and they go on eternally in various moving and non-moving forms. The word Sanskrit word Parameshwara is sometimes translated as the individual soul. So sometimes the Parameshwara is also the individual soul. The reason is he is controlling the body. So he is a Ishvara. Ishvara means control. So in this case, Parameshwara means the controller, the main controller of the body. So sometimes the Parameshwara is also Jivatma. Because the soul is the master of the body, and after destruction of the body, it transfers to another form. In that way, he is the master. But there are others who interpret Parameshwara to be super soul. Another understanding of Parameshwara is that one who controls everything, not just this body, but all the Jivatmas and the matter and the material energy, both. In this case, both the super soul and individual soul continue. They are not destroyed. One who can see in this way can actually see what is happening. So this is the philosophical understanding. Any uh, any question before you go ahead? Okay. Samam pashyan hi sarvatra. Samam pashyan hi sarvatra. Samavistham ishwaram. Na hinasati atmana atmanam. Tato yati paramgati. So this section, this particular chapter, right, 13th chapter, is very, very philosophical. Okay. So that's why it's little complex to understand. One who sees super soul equally present everywhere, in every living being, does not degrade himself by mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination. So one should see the Paramatma also to be spiritually enlightened, okay? Not just the Jivatma. So some spiritualists, they only see the Atma, but they don't see the Paramatma. So therefore Krishna is saying that one should see the Paramatma also. That is, if one can see the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every living entity, he does not degrade himself by the destructive mentality, and therefore he gradually advances to the spiritual world. The mind is generally addicted to sense gratifying process, but when the mind turns to super soul, one becomes advanced in spiritual knowledge. See, the word used is destructive mentality. Now, what does this destructive mentality means? So, if one sees only the Atma in everyone, but doesn't see the Paramatma, then he only thinks that I have to merge into Brahman. Okay? Once I merge into Brahman, that's it. I become Brahman and then my existence ends. So that's the destructive mentality. But when one sees the Paramatma, oh, there is another living entity also, and he's Paramatma. I am just Atma, but he's Paramatma. So then he develops relationship with the Paramatma, and he continues beyond the Brahmajyoti into the uh, spiritual world, and that is not destructive. Okay. So again, on the same point, uh, that on the spiritual path, there are those who worship the Avyakta. Avyakta means Brahman, impersonal Brahman. Aksharam Avyaktam. Okay. There are Bhaktas and then there is Aksharam Avyaktam. They want to merge into the Brahman. They are said to be difficult. It is very difficult. Krishna says this very clearly. Klesha. He says Klesha. Fifth verse. Klesho adiktarastesham avyakta seta chechasam. Those who are running after avyakta, it's very klesha, it's very difficult. It is dukkham, gatir dukkham. Very, very strong words Krishna is using. Very strong words he's using. Dukkham is, he's saying that path is there. Spiritual path is there, but it is dukkham. And second point is, it can lead to destructive mentality. So it can lead to two things. One is shunyavad. Destructive mentality. What it is like merging into Brahman. See, the aim is I need to merge into Brahman. That's it. And become Brahman. Become one with Brahman. That is the aim. First, it is dukkham, it is klesha, it is difficult. We read that. Second is, it can lead to destructive mentality. Destructive. Why? Because ends, one thinks of ending his existence in Brahman. Now, what is the problem with this ending of existence in Brahman?
Uh, so there is no joy. Uh,
Yeah, of
there
course,
is
there
no
is peace.
happiness.
There, yeah, there is no joy. That is there.
Yeah.
Second thing is, uh, our real nature is to be existing. Okay, we don't want to die. That is there. We want to always exist. So in the Brahman, if we go and we end our existence kind of thing, then that is against our nature. And such a thing doesn't happen in the Brahman. In the Brahman, one merges. Of course, one merges. But the merge is like a parrot entering a green tree. Once it enters, it is difficult to find out where the parent went. Okay, because it just camouflages. So technically the existence never ends. Okay, technically the existence never ends. Like I'll show you another verse from Bhagavad Gita itself. Um, in the second chapter, Krishna makes this statement. There was never a time when I didn't exist, nor you exist, nor all the kings, nor further, nor in future shall any of us cease to be. Our existence never ends. Okay? So, if one is thinking to end the existence, then it is destructive mentality. It is not recommended. Okay? So, in that sense, it is called spiritual suicide. Basically, not recommended because that doesn't happen. So, better than that is to come to Bhakti platform and enter the spiritual world, that is Vaikunta. Okay, this is how Vaishnava acharyas they explain. But the Brahmavadis, they don't explain like this. They will say we have to villain, we have to merge. After that we are done. No more bodies. No more bodies is fine, but to think that I will never exist is wrong, because Krishna is saying, right, there was never a time when I didn't exist, you didn't exist, and in future we will won't be exist, right? So it is something against the understanding. So that's why it is called destructive. I hope I'm clear, right? You understand the point? See, when a
Yeah.
suicide happens, people think that what they think when suicide happens. They think, okay, done. Now I have to don't worry only. I'm done. After this, no worries. Isn't it?
Mm.
But in reality, does that happen? The spirit soul again comes back in a different body. Okay? It has to come back. Same thing. In spiritual suicide also, if one thinks is ending his existence, it is wrong. He is existing inside Brahman. So best is to come to this bhakti platform. That's why Krishna is giving so many. He's explaining so many times, because we don't want this destructive mentality. प्रकृत्यैव च कर्माणि क्रियमाणानि सर्वशः य पश्यति तथात्मानम् अकर्तारं स पश्यति. One who can see that all activities are performed in the body, which is created by Mother Nature, and sees the self does nothing, actually sees. So one um, akartaram, non-doer. So one who can see himself to be the non-doer, but it is done by the three modes. He is the real. He is the real seer. He is the real one. He is the one who can really understand how things are working in this world. Okay, this body is made by material nature under the direction of the super soul, and whatever activities are going on in respect to one's body are not his doing. Whatever one is supposed to do, either for happiness or for distress, one is forced to because of the bodily constitution. See, the body, if one gets a dog's body, one has to act like a dog. Just like I was telling, in a drama, if somebody is doing a drama where he's the character of the cow, then he has to act like a cow, right? Otherwise, the whole fun of the drama will go away. He has to act like a cow. Similarly, when the Atma comes in certain body, he has to act through that. Actually, he does that. It's not like he doesn't do it, he does that. The self, however, is outside all these bodily activities. This body is given according to one's past desire. To fulfill desire, one is given body with which he acts accordingly. Practically speaking, the body is a machine designed by the Supreme Lord to fulfill desires. Because of the desires, one is put into difficult circumstances to suffer or to enjoy. This transcendental vision of the living entity, when developed, makes one separate from bodily activity. One who has such a vision is actual seer. So when one sees how things are working, okay, the soul, according to past desires, are put into the body, and now he's acting through that. Okay, now he's acting like a tiger or a dog or whatever, angry person or whatever. That body is forcing him. This is the vision. This is how the sadhus also see. So that's why the sadhus, they don't get angry. Why? Because they understand that it is the Atma which is not angry. It is not the Atma that is responding. It is the Atma which is caught up in this material modes that is making this person act like this. So there's a story that happened. Once Alexander met, he came to India, right? Then he met a sadhu. Okay, so he went to that sadhu and he wanted to talk with him and all that, but the sadhu was not responding. So he got angry. Alexander got angry and he was shouting, and somehow he got the sadhu awoken from his uh, meditation. Then Alexander said, I am the king. And then the sadhu said, I am the master of the servant who is controlling you. The sadhu said, I am the master of the servant who is controlling you. So then Alexander understood that his anger was controlling him, and the sadhu was saying that I have controlled the anger which is controlling him. And then Alexander became pacified. So the point is, this is how sadhus see, and they are able to respond in such situations.
Mm.
Okay, so when we see actual seer and all that, when it is talking about sadhus, now this is how they see. यदा भूत पृथक भावम एकस्थम अनुपश्यति तत एव च विस्तरम ब्रह्म संपद्यते तदा. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to Brahman conception. So all this understanding brings one to Brahman conception. Brahman conception means spiritual conception. Okay. He then doesn't identify with the material body. He is seeing Atma everywhere. A very nice story I'll tell you. Sukhdev Goswami. Whenever you see Sukhdev Goswami, what is one thing that you see in Sukhdev Goswami? What do you see in this picture? This is Sukhdev Goswami, okay? This person. What is so peculiar in him? Can you tell me?
Mm. Body complexion.
Body complexion, fine. Anything more if you see? What is he wearing?
Nothing.
Nothing. So he was on the Brahman platform where he didn't identify with the body. So he was born to Vyasadeva, and he was already very elevated soul right from his birth. He was so much elevated that within the womb of his mother he was meditating. And then he understood there is no point coming out in this world. So for 16 years, not 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 16 years, he was not ready to come out only. He had that power. So Vyasadeva brought Krishna to meet his wife and to instruct Sukdev Goswami to come out of it. And when Krishna told come out of it, then Sukdev Goswami came. And the moment he came out, he walked out of the house. He walked out of the house. There is no picture here, but the story says that uh, the moment he walked out, right, there were some girls who were taking bath in the river. Okay, and they saw that this young boy, 16-year-old boy, he was not wearing anything, clothed in just four directions, not wearing anything, was walking by. But they were not disturbed by him. And Vyasadev came running after Sukdev Goswami. Come back home, my son, come back home. But the moment he came, all the girls started pulling their clothes and wearing it. And then Vyasadev asked them, my son who is naked, at that point you are not wearing clothes, you are not worried about it. But now I am walking, now you're wearing. Why like that? The girls said that your son is 16-year-old, that's fine. He's not wearing anything, but his vision is not material. He is having transcendental vision. He is not seeing us as man or woman. He is seeing us on the spiritual platform. So he is not affected by these definitions of man and woman. So his vision was like that. So even the girls, they didn't feel fearful of him or ashamed in front of him. Can you imagine? So such a personality spoke Srimad Bhagavad to Parikshit Maharaj. So that is the vision that Krishna is talking about here. He attains the Brahman conception. When one can see various bodies arise due to different desires of individual soul and do not actually belong to the soul itself, one actually sees. In the material conception of life, we find someone a demigod. See, in material conception, we see the difference. This is a devata, this is a dog, this is a human being, this is a cat. The material differentiation is due to material conception of life. After destruction of the material body, the spirit soul is one. The spirit soul, due to contact with material nature, gets different types of bodies. When one can see this, he attains spiritual vision. But on the spiritual vision, he doesn't see all these different bodies. And thus, he is freed from differentiations like man, animal, big, low, etc. And one becomes purified in his consciousness and able to develop Krishna consciousness in his spiritual identity. Now he then sees things will be explained. How he then sees things will be explained in the next verses. So this is the spiritual vision that Krishna is talking. Anaditvam nirgunatvat parmat param atmayam avyaya sharirasthopi konteya na karoti na lipyate. Those with the vision of the eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So this is their vision. The living entity appears to be born because of the birth of material body, but actually the living entity is eternal. He is not born, and in spite of his being situated in a material body, he is transcendental and eternal. Thus, he cannot be destroyed. By nature, he is full of bliss. He does not engage himself in any material activities. And therefore, activities performed due to his contact with material body does not entangle him. So he is on the spiritual platform. He only touches the material things which are required, okay, to sustain. Otherwise, he is not doing any material activity. So Sukdev Goswami, we are talking about Sukdev Goswami. After he spoke with Parikshit Maharaj, he went, and there also he didn't wear anything. He was always naked. Okay, and so one of the king was trying to test him, that is he really such a great sadhu who is not affected by anything. So he placed sugar on his tongue. He placed sugar on his tongue, and after some time he opened his mouth and saw that the sugar was still there. Now sugar is such a thing that we just, if somebody tastes it, just they just gulp it, right? But Sukdev Goswami was on such a spiritual platform that he was not even affected by sugar, right? So this is a very high spiritual platform that Krishna is talking about. So the activities, the material body does not entangle him. Yata sarvagatam soksh sokshamyat akasham nopalipate सर्वत्रो अविस्थितो देह तथात्मा नो लिप्यते नोपलिप्यते नो न उपालियपते no upalipate. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it's all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. The sky remains there. It doesn't mix with the cloud or anything. Similarly, one who is having this Brahman vision now, he is not mixing with anything material. The air enters into water, mud, stool, whatever else is there. Still, it does not mix with anything. See, air, it enters water, but it becomes bubble. It is not mixing with water. It enters mud, doesn't mix. Stool, whatever. Similarly, the living entity, even though situated in varieties of bodies, aloof from them due to its subtle nature. Similarly, the jivatma in the body is aloof. It's not affected by that. Therefore, it is impossible to see with the material eyes how the living entity is in contact with this body and how he is out of it after destruction of the body. No one in science can ascertain this. Modern science finds it very difficult to understand this whole thing. To understand what is Atma, how it remains, how it doesn't die, and all that. It is difficult for them to ascertain. Yata prakashayati ekah कृष्णम लोकम इमाम रवि क्षेत्रम क्षेत्री तथा कृष्णम प्रकाशयति भारतः. O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all the universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminates the entire body by consciousness. So how does we understand that somebody is living? It is through consciousness. Prakashayati. So the awareness within a body is because the soul is giving that awareness, and that's what we call as consciousness. Once the soul leaves the body, there is no consciousness. There are various theories regarding consciousness. Here in Bhagavad Gita, the example of the sun and the sunshine is given. As the sun is situated in one place, but is illuminating the whole universe, so a small particle of living entity, although situated in the heart of the body, is illuminating the whole body by consciousness. The consciousness is the proof of the presence of soul. So this is the proof. If a soul is there, we understand that through the consciousness. As sunshine or light is the proof of the presence of the sun, when the soul is present in the body, there is consciousness all over the body. And as soon as the soul has passed from the body, there is no more consciousness. This can be easily understood by any intelligent man. Therefore, consciousness is not a product of combination of matter. So this is modern science understanding also, that consciousness is not matter, it is antimatter. It is the symptom of the living entity. The consciousness of the living entity, all the qualitative one with the supreme consciousness is not supreme, because the consciousness of one particular body does not share that of another body. But the super soul, which is situated in all the bodies as a friend of the individual soul, is conscious of all bodies. That is the difference between supreme consciousness and individual consciousness. So living entity generates individual consciousness. The super soul generates supreme consciousness. 35. क्षेत्र चैतन्योर एवं अंतरम ज्ञान चक्षुषः भूत प्रकृति मोक्षम स ये विदुर यान्ति ते परम. One who sees with eyes of knowledge the difference between body and knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from the bondage, attains the supreme goal. So now we understood, okay, body is there, knower of the body, Jivatma, Paramatma is there. Now the process of liberation, how to be coming out of this body and not getting the body at all. The purport to this 13th chapter is that one should know the distinction between body, the owner of the body, and super soul. Okay, these three distinctions should be there. One should recognize the process of liberation, 8 to 12. Then one can go to the supreme destination. A faithful person should at first have some good association to hear of God and thus gradually become enlightened. If one accepts a spiritual master, one can learn distinguish between matter, spirit, and that becomes a stepping stone for further spiritual realization. A spiritual master, by various instructions, teaches his students to get free from material conception of life. For instance, in Bhagavad Gita, we find Krishna is instructing Arjuna to free from materialistic considerations. One can understand this body is matter. It can be analyzed by its 24 elements. The body is gross manifestation, and the subtle manifestation is the mind, psychological effects, and the symptoms of life are the interaction of these features. But over and above this, there is soul. There is also super soul. The soul and super soul are two. The material world is working under the conjunction of the soul and the 24 elements. One who can see the constitution of the whole material manifestation as this combination of soul and material elements can also see the situation of the supreme soul becomes eligible to transfer to the spiritual world. These things are meant for contemplation and for realization. One should have complete understanding of this chapter with the help of the spiritual master. So, from this chapter, what we should know? The distinction between body, owner of the body, super soul, and the process of liberation. So, let's jot down differences. So, body, soul, Paramatma, or the super soul. Okay. So, tell me differences in terms of death. Does the body die? Does the body die?
Yes, Prabhuji. Indeed.
Yeah. Soul? Jivatma? No.
No.
Paramatma? No. Second, conscious. Does the body have consciousness? No. Soul have consciousness? Yes. Paramatma has consciousness? Yes. Then individual consciousness. Body, no. Soul, yes. Paramatma is also individual consciousness. Supreme consciousness, okay. Supreme consciousness, no. Soul, does it have supreme consciousness? No. Paramatma, does it have supreme consciousness? Yes. So like that. So once we start making differences, we start understanding. Now this is contemplation. Contemplation means to think about it, to think about it, to discuss about it, like that. Hmm? So all this is necessary. This is part of spiritual science. Okay. And then from verses 8 to 12 is the process of liberation, which is humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching bona fide spiritual master. Okay. Unalloyed devotion. This is most important. Bhakti. So all this is the process of liberation. So from this chapter, all these things should be known. Okay. Any questions or comments? Any questions?
Prabhuji, just to know the differences, whether the soul will have the sensation, it will have feelings, means pain like that, things.
What? Sorry?
That does body will have pain sensation similar to that. Soul will also have pain sensation like that. I mean, means feeling pain feelings like that sensation. Yes.
Sensation basically,
Soul will not have because soul
yeah,
is
soul. No, no, no. The body will not have the sensations. Basically, the whole thing is now it just gives a feedback that the body is in problem. So the sensations is actually no. The soul, yes. Paramatma, yes.
Thank
Feelings,
you.
emotions, body, no. Soul, yes. Paramatma, yes. Now, how to understand this? Very simple example I'll take. Maybe I have the picture already. Let me see. Yeah. So this is a video game and the person is playing over it, right? This is the input it is giving. Move left, right, speed, etc. Some instructions to mouth. Hmm? And then he's watching. Now he's playing some fighting game. If he gets hurt in this fighting game, who will feel hurt? Who will feel the actual hurt?
Nobody will think.
No, somebody will feel, no?
Our heart only.
The
We will
player.
get
The
player will
player.
get.
The player feels,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
The actual, or let's say this, Video game doesn't have the feeling, right? The player feels. Why? Because he identifies with it. In that direction, if we see, then the sensation, emotions, feelings are with the player, but not with the hardware. The hardware is always dead. The hardware is always dead. Similarly, the body is already dead. It cannot have the sensation, feelings, etc. Only the soul has it. Okay, does it make sense?
Thanks.
Yeah. So these are contemplation points. Think about it. Okay. Any other question or comment? Is this clear? Like the body is not actually experiencing, basically. The body is only facing it, but the real pain happens here.
So I have a question here, Prabhuji. So actually, if you see some patients, they are having pain. So doctors are giving painkiller. So and when they do some research, they identify there's something is through nerves. It transfers to that brain particular part, and that portion of the brain is just sensing it. So then they
Yeah,
are finding some medicines to just numb that particular nerve, or so that, like
agreed.
patients like cancer patient, they are shouting with so much pain. So
Yeah,
those they're trying to do this management. So at that time also, his body is feeling that, or soul is feeling, or how do you think with this we can manage that, Prabhuji?
yeah. See, these nerves are there to tell us that that particular part, wherever these nerves are, is getting damaged or not. Okay,
Okay.
we need to understand the function of the nerve. It is telling us where the pain is, what is getting damaged. Hmm?
Okay, Prabhuji.
Hmm. Just like there are many sensors on the car. There's camera, sensor, infrared, video cameras, right? AC sensor. If the sensor tells us whether the part is working or not. If it doesn't work, then the engine light turns on.
Right.
Yeah. But the pain happens to the driver, na?
Yes. Right.
That's what is happening. So it is the identification of the soul with the body that the pain is happening. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that we have to just neglect it or something. No. See, when the maintenance of the car comes, we have to put money in it. Then only we can use it. So this feedback system is given to us. So it's actually a feedback system. This nerve system is actually a feedback system, telling us that this machine has some problem somewhere. Okay. So then deal with it. Take it to the mechanic, like doctor, and try to fix it like that. Does the car feel the pain in the accident? No. It is the driver who feels it. Of course, he gets hurt. That's different. But a car getting damaged, the owner feels the pain, isn't it? The owner feels the pain. The car doesn't feel the pain. So, in that way, hmm, so these are topics of contemplation, dhyana, deliberation. So these are topics. So when we deliberate on this, then we realize, okay, then we can come slowly on the platform. Brahman platform actually. Contemplation. Okay. Any other question or comment?